Okay, close your eyes for a second. Imagine you're sailing, right? But not on water. You're sailing through this uh, endless sea of trees, like impossibly tall trees.
Yeah,
And your ship, it's not cutting through waves. It's rustling through branches, leaves. You smell wood smoke, maybe strange flowers. That's the whole world.
that's pretty much it. It's a world that came about because of something called the Verdancy. Basically, this massive cataclysmic wave of super fast-growing plants just took over, covered
By
everything.
turning everything into this vast wild forest sea.
Exactly.
And that absolutely wild place, that's the setting for the Wildsea. It's a tabletop RPG we're doing a deep dive into today. We've been digging through the core rulebook, the supplements, really trying to get a feel for it.
Yeah, and our goal here really is to unpack what this game is.
Yeah.
Go beyond just the surface description. If you've maybe seen the incredible artwork, or you've heard people talking about this weird tree world,
Right.
or you're just wondering what it feels like to actually play, we want to show you why this might be, well, an adventure you really want to check out.
It definitely feels like a blend of just bizarre, beautiful, dangerous nature and characters and ships that are every bit as unique as the setting.
Totally. So let's start with that core idea.
Hmm.
The world covered by the Verdancy. The key thing is it's not just one big forest. It's got layers, kind of like an ocean, actually,
Yeah.
each with its own dangers, its own feel.
So right at the top, where I guess most people travel, that's the thrash.
Think of it like the surface waters. It's thick enough with branches that your standard ships, they call them wave cutters, can basically slice right through. That's where you start out mostly.
Okay. And below that,
Below the thrash, you get the tangle. Now here the branches, they're woven together much, much more tightly. It's teeming with life, a lot of it pretty strange.
harder to get through then.
Oh yeah. You can navigate it, but you need skill,
Mm.
patience, probably some ship upgrades too. It feels more like pushing through a dense, living maze.
Okay, then deeper still, it gets worse, right? Sink.
Definitely worse. The sink is where all the old stuff settles. Like forgotten cities from before the Verdancy, shipwrecks. And the creatures there get bigger, scarier. It's dark down there, perpetual twilight.
And getting back up is tough.
It's a serious challenge, yeah. Going down is risky, coming back, even riskier.
And then there's the bottom, the drown.
The drown, crushing depths, the densest layer. The life down there is, well, abundant, but utterly alien. And there's this pervasive force, Krezerin. It's everywhere down there. Just surviving requires some serious prep.
But it's not all below the canopy, is it? You can go up.
Right. Look up, and you've got the wild blue,
Yeah.
the sky above the trees. And that has layers, too. Below the clouds, within the clouds, above the clouds. Each offers different kinds of encounters, different challenges. Flying beasts, weird weather.
Yeah, it's a whole other dimension.
Totally.
Mm.
And flying up there, especially way up high above the clouds, that could attract the watchers.
Watchers, what are they?
Potent forces, mysterious, seem to be linked specifically to airships. Running into a watcher is generally not a good sign.
Okay, so speaking of forces shaping this world, Krezerin, you mentioned that. What exactly is it?
It's described as this sort of natural alchemy of the wood waves, a force that speeds up growth, causes mutations, strange, bizarre changes in living things.
Ah, so that's where all the weird biology comes from.
Pretty much, yeah. And the deeper you go, especially down in the drown, the more concentrated it gets, more powerful, which means more mutated, more dangerous creatures. It's like the world itself is constantly trying to reshape you.
Wow, okay. And then there are whispers. These sound really cool.
They are cool. They're described as like tangible manifestations of souls, or maybe even narrative itself, like stories made real.
Tangible, so they have actual effects.
Oh yeah, they can twist chance, mess with the narrative around you. Imagine finding a place filled with rampant words, literally, thoughts or stories given form that can warp reality. Wizards add this layer of unpredictable magic, or chaos.
That sounds wild. And there's an internal threat too, Meyer.
Yes, Meyer. This isn't just getting lost physically. It's more insidious. It's like a slow degradation of your character's mind, their reason, maybe even their sense of self. It creeps in when you spend too long in the deep, untamed parts of the Wildsea, away from ports.
So it's a mechanic, something you track.
Exactly. It's a track your character fills up, adds this sort of psychological pressure.
Yeah.
You need to find civilization, find sanctuary before you kind of lose yourself.
Gotcha. And the world isn't static either. You mentioned earthquakes.
Right. These are huge, violent shifts in the actual treescape.
Oh.
The ground, well, the branches beneath you just heave and rearrange.
So maps become useless. New paths open up.
Exactly. Or sometimes, terrifyingly, they bring up ancient things from the depths. Old ruins, maybe Leviathan bones, things long buried. It makes travel inherently unstable.
And obviously in a world made of wood, fire.
Huge danger. Absolutely terrifying. Once it catches in the verdant sea, it spreads incredibly fast. Avoiding it, fighting it, that's a major survival concern.
Okay. Last one for the environment. Rifts.
Yeah, rifts. Think massive, yawning chasms in the treescape. They lead down towards something called the undereaves, which sounds ominous. Even the local creatures tend to avoid them. Going into a rift is probably peak danger level.
Okay, so that's the world. Layered, dynamic, weird, dangerous. So who are we in all this? The players.
You are a wild sailor, someone making their way, making a living, sailing these rustling waves.
And how do you make a character?
This is where the Wildsea really shines, I think. It pushes you away from standard fantasy stuff. You don't pick, like Elf Ranger. You choose a bloodline or an origin. And these are incredibly varied and unique to this setting.
Give me an example.
Okay, like the Ectus. They're basically sentient cactus people.
Seriously?
Yeah, long-lived. They sense things through their flowers. Some might even remember bits of the world before the verdancy hit. Playing an Ectus immediately gives you this really different viewpoint.
Okay, that's cool. What else?
Or the Zelicrae. These are fascinating and kind of creepy. They're actually colonies of thousands of tiny spiders.
Wait, what?
Yeah, collectively intelligent. They inhabit and control these skin-like husks. People are often scared of them, naturally, but playing one gives you amazing options for mimicry, collective thought, really unique role-playing.
That is wildly different.
And the game supports this flexibility. It offers alternate presentations. So if you want to play something that feels like a druid or a knight, you can frame it that way, but you build it using the mechanics of these unique bloodlines. It lets you blend familiar ideas with the Wildsea's strangeness.
Okay, so Bloodline gives you your base. What about abilities and stuff?
That comes from aspects. Aspects cover everything: physical traits, special gear, even loyal animal companions. The interesting part is how they work mechanically. They have tracks, like health bars.
Tracks.
Yeah. They get marked when you use the aspect, or if it takes damage. You can even burn an aspect track for a big, powerful push, but then it's out of action until you can heal it.
Ah, so there's resource management built into using your abilities?
Exactly. It adds this tactical layer. Like a Cinco Bloodline might give you a Wicked Claw aspect for fighting. Using it marks the track, maybe representing fatigue, or you might have Hex Tooth gear, lets you manipulate bone, but using it strains the item.
Makes sense. What else defines a character?
You also have practical skills. Things like break, rattle for tinkering, study. And you can learn various languages like brass tongue, which sounds complex.
And motivations?
Critically important. Drives. These are your character's goals. Personal aims, maybe shared crew objectives. Pursuing and achieving your drives is actually the main way you advance your character.
So it rewards playing to your character's goals.
Absolutely. Gives you direction and a mechanical reason to follow your own narrative path. And remember, Meyer, that mental degradation, that's a personal track for each character too. A constant reminder of the wilds pressing in.
Okay, characters sound really distinct. Now, you can't be a wild sailor without a ship, right?
Right. The ship is crucial. It's the crew's shared home, your transport, your main tool for survival and exploration. It's almost a character in itself.
And I'm guessing they're not just standard galleons.
Oh, definitely not. Like everything else, they're adapted. You've got your basic wave cutters for the thrash surface layer. But the game really encourages you to specialize depending on where you want to go.
So like for the sky, the wild blue.
You need an airship. They use different lift systems, gas bags maybe, or huge canvas wings. And they have different ways of flying, like rush, hover, glide. Airships even have that special watchful eyes track we mentioned, representing how much attention they attract from those sky watchers.
And for going deep, into the sink or the drown.
You'll need a submersible. These need special pressure shells just to not get crushed. Often scrubbers, too, for the weird air down there. They track pressure as a risk mechanic the deeper you go.
How do you customize them? Make them your own?
Using stakes. Stakes represent value salvage stuff, trade goods, whatever. You spend stakes to add or improve components and fittings.
And the components sound as weird as the characters.
Totally. Your hull might be made from Aeroviathan bones, giant flying creature skeletons, super light, or maybe parasite planking grown from cultivated wood parasites. Maybe it regenerates slightly.
Engines?
Could be vapor intakes pulling moisture from the air.
Yeah.
Maybe something using whispers somehow. The book gives lots of evocative examples.
And they need something to cut through the branches.
Yep, bites, big saws, claws, grinders on the hull, essential for movement and also for ship combat, which they call sawing the skies.
Nice. Weapons, fittings.
Sure, you've got hull weapons like winch claws for grappling, deck guns like harpoon turrets. Fittings can be practical like a cargo crane or really unique, like the ship garden. This is one of my favorite bits. It's literally a garden on your ship's deck where you grow Wildsea plants.
You're kidding.
Nope. You need plots, special growing mediums like mutamulch, and seeds you find out in the wild. You track the growth on a grow track.
And what do you get?
Useful stuff. Edible icteranges, maybe dangerous hex nettles you could use somehow, or even weird stuff like Tagro's call wheat that apparently tastes like ozone. It connects your survival directly to the world's bizarre flora.
That is fantastic. Do ships have crews? NPCs?
Yeah, you can have undercrew, NPCs who help run the ship.
Okay, so you've got this incredible world, these unique characters, these customizable ships.
Yeah.
How does it actually play? What's the gameplay loop?
The core loop is about journeys, setting out, exploring, having encounters.
Right.
And the game philosophy is very narrative first. The GM, called the Firefly, isn't there to dictate everything. They're more of a guide. They set scenes, portray the world, present challenges using mechanics like tracks, and then interpret the dice rolls to keep the story moving.
So players drive the story.
Very much so. It's collaborative. The main mechanic is the action roll. You gather a pool of dice, usually based on a skill, plus maybe a relevant aspect.
Okay.
Roll them, and look at the single highest die.
What are the results?
A 6 is a triumph. Full success, you do what you wanted. A 4 or 5 is a conflict, you succeed, but there's a cost, a complication, something goes slightly wrong.
I had low rolls.
A 1, 2, or 3 is a disaster. You fail, and probably something bad happens as a consequence.
Is it just about the highest die?
Mostly,
Yeah.
but there's also cut. The Firefly can apply cut to make a roll harder, representing difficulty. Or players can choose to take cut on their roll to gain precision or impact, basically accepting a potentially worse outcome number for a more focused effect.
Interesting trade-off.
Yeah. And then there are twists. This is key. If you roll any matching dice, like 2 4s or 3 2s, that's a twist.
And a twist is?
A narrative complication or maybe an opportunity, something unexpected happens. And crucially, any player at the table, not just the Firefly, can suggest what the twist is based on the situation.
Well, that's cool. So even on a success, a twist could add drama.
Exactly. You might triumph on your roll, but because you roll doubles, maybe your grappling hook snags perfectly, but also pulls loose a cascade of angry sky eels. Randomly. It injects story directly from the dice, keeps things really dynamic and unpredictable.
You mentioned tracks earlier for aspects in Mire. Are they used a lot?
Heavily. Tracks represent progress, risk, durability, everything.
Yeah.
Enemies have damage tracks. Complex situations might have strategy tracks. Journeys use progress tracks. There are risk tracks for mounting danger, pathfinding tracks for navigating unknown areas, even riot tracks for potential mutiny on board.
Wow, okay, so they visualize how things are going.
Right, and they can be open, where everyone sees the track and its progress. Hidden, where you know there's a track for something, but you don't know how full it is. Or even secret, where you don't know a track exists until it suddenly triggers something.
Sneaky. So on these journeys, you have encounters. How are those determined?
The Firefly usually makes a threat roll to see what kind of encounter pops up. And the variety is just huge, constantly reinforcing how weird this world is.
Like what kind of things? Beasts.
Oh, yeah. But not just like wolves. Think flying piranha slicing through the air. The giant insectoid mantid drake. A fox called the white-collar snare that mesmerizes you with its scent. Or the old ornail, basically a squirrel leviathan the size of a mountain.
A squirrel, leviathan, okay.
Or you might encounter plants as threats. Carnivorous pitcher plants big enough to gulp someone down. Chronovoric moss that messes with time perception. Or the orchid scar, a horrifying vampiric plant leviathan.
Yikes. What about other people?
Definitely. Other Wildsailors, sometimes friendly, often not. Pirate gangs like the Fierce Kijardico or the scavenging Jackalbone Marauders, or bigger factions with agendas like the Leech Consortium who control water, or the creepy sacrificial Ravenites.
And the environment itself.
For sure. Living storms, weird fungal blooms called shroom tides, accidentally sailing too close to one of those deadly rifts.
Can encounters be positive? Like finding somewhere safe?
Absolutely. Finding a port is a major encounter. These little knots of civilization in the chaos. Each one's different too, like Niscaro, all gears, and alchemy and rebellion. Or 3 masks focused on literature and stories.
And you gather stuff along the way. Resources.
Yeah, Resources, salvage from wrecks, specimens from creatures or plants. Maybe you collect those weird whispers, find useful charts. And they're not just inventory clutter. You can spend these resources to create temporary aspects on the fly.
Like crafting a one-use tool or
Yep,
ability.
exactly. You need to climb a sheer surface. Maybe you can use some salvage parts and a weird vine specimen to rig up temporary climbing claws. It encourages creative problem solving using what you find.
How does your character actually get better, advanced?
Through milestones. These are narrative achievements, not just XP for killing things. Surviving a really tough fight, uncovering a major secret, forging an alliance with an NPC, fulfilling one of your drives. These trigger milestones.
And milestones let you improve aspects, gain new ones?
Yep, that's how your character grows and changes over time, linked directly to the story you're telling.
Okay, so let's circle back then. We've covered a lot. For someone listening, maybe intrigued by the art or the concept, why pick up the Wildsea? What's the big draw?
I think, honestly, number one is the world itself. It's just so genuinely unique, that forest sea concept. It's explored with such depth. The layers, the Kresvren, the rootquakes, the whispers. It feels alive and genuinely alien, not just fantasy with trees.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a reskin at all.
Not at all. And then how you interact with that world. Your character isn't just a standard archetype dropped in. You could be that spider colony or the cactus person. Your very identity is tied to the setting's weirdness right from the start.
Or the branch up, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And the ship is so central. It's your home, your tool, almost part of the group. Customizing it to handle the sky or the depths or just survive the thrash.
Yeah.
That's a core part of the game's loop and strategy.
The ship garden really sells that, doesn't it? Tying survival to the world's plants.
It really does. Then there's the gameplay mechanics, the action roll, the twists especially, the tracks. They're all built to generate story. Dice rolls don't just give you a pass-fail. They throw in complications, opportunities.
Keeps the narrative moving in unexpected ways.
Precisely. It feels less like just overcoming obstacles and more like co-creating this ongoing, evolving narrative.
And it seems like you could tell a lot of different kinds of stories here.
Absolutely. Deep survival horror in the sink, swashbuckling sky piracy, political maneuvering in Nuscaro, investigating strange whisper mysteries, hunting massive, bizarre leviathans, or just the simple struggle to chart the unknown and make your way. It supports all of that.
So if you're looking for something really fresh, imaginative, deeply tied to its unique ecology with mechanics that support player creativity, the Wildsea seems like a really strong contender.
I'd say so. It offers this rich, detailed, truly original setting, and the rules feel designed to help you tell cool stories within it.
So you've got this incredible world built on impossibly tall trees where the landscape shifts under your feet, souls become tangible things, and every journey is just unpredictable.
Yeah, a real dive into the unknown.
So the question becomes, in that world, what forgotten knowledge from before the verdancy ever happened? Or what lost horizon way up high above the clouds, or maybe deep, deep down in the drown, what waits just beyond that next wave of rustling leaves you sail through?
Something to think about. Well, that's all for this deep dive into the Wildsea RPG.